Hello, everybody. What's up? It's Jack here, and today I'm gonna be talking about the trade deadline special here. I'm just gonna talk about the moves that have been made so far, and then I think I'll make another one probably when the trade deadline's over, which is 4 p.m. Friday, I think. Um, Really excited to see where Scherzer's traded. I do believe he will be traded, sadly, but I think he'll re-sign with the Nats, honestly, after the season. But anyways, there's already been some big trades that have gone down. And the first one is Adam Frazier, who was traded to the Padres. From the Pirates. The Pirates got the fifth best prospect in the Padres system, to Marcano, and then a guy who has 1,000 OPS in the minors, Jake Sawinski, outfielder, and then a pitcher who has like a lot of strikeouts and the amount of innings he's pitched. So that deal was interesting. Honestly, I don't really know like what the Padres need. I mean, I guess they need another starter, but like, is that really necessary? I don't know. I mean, they also have Mike Clevenger coming back next year, so it's interesting, definitely to look at that. I mean, they have their top three probably in Darvish, Musgrove, Snell, Weathers. That's kind of four, I believe, right, that I mentioned. I don't think Chris Paddock's a top three playoff starter, as I've referred to so many times on this podcast. I don't know if Snell is good enough to be in that role also. He's just been really bad this year. They're also getting Morahone back soon, and he's really good. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. I don't think Lamet is going to be effective again this year. He's just really injured and hasn't been great. So interesting deal for the Padres. I think my rationale behind it is they're trying to get more production out of their lineup in terms of versus righties. I guess, they didn't start Tommy Pham uh, yesterday, and they started Frazier instead against the A's. And I guess that's because Frazier is better against righties, obviously, than Pham. So I think what they're going to do is they're just going to rotate basically between Frazier playing for Myers and Pham right against righties. So either Myers or Pham won't have to bat against righties, and instead you have Frazier, which will be more production. Also, I don't know what's going to happen with Eric Hosmer. Like, maybe he'll get traded, and then, they'll move Cronenworth to first and Frazier to second. But I think that's personally kind of stupid. The return you're getting for Hosmer is really not much just because his contract is so bad. It's actually not terrible. I mean, he has one more year at 23 million, and then he's like 13 million for like 3 years, a player option. 13 million for Hosmer's fine. I think he's serviceable enough for that. But again, you have to eat the 23 million next year for him, which really sucks. So interesting trade for the Padres. Smart by the Pirates, kind of just clean house. I guess that's what you do here. They've absolutely no starting pitching, whatever. I mean, I think Brew Baker's their only like maybe okay starting pitcher. And they traded Tyler Anderson also, so I'll get into that. But interesting, the Padres. I don't know. It's an interesting trade. We'll see what the Padres continue to do because I don't think they're done yet. Probably need another bullpen guy, but again, we'll see. Another small deal. So the Yankees they traded that guy Park, who was like really good in the minor leagues. 327, 10 home runs in AAA, and somebody else for this random dude named Clay Holmes. Didn't make a lot of sense of that, but clearly we're missing something here. I think Cashman's a good enough GM not to just do something idiotic like that. Clearly this guy has a really good spin rate or something we're missing, that he might actually be half decent. But initially it makes no sense. I really didn't understand it. The Yankees also just have zero farm system whatsoever. So, I don't really know what that was. But we'll see. So I like and then the Yankees traded Sessa and Justin Wilson to the Reds. good move for the Reds. The Reds need bullpen help. They also got Michael Givens from the Rockies. So I really like that. The Reds need arms for their bullpen. That's their probably their biggest weakness, or I guess back end starting pitching. But I like that they're like not making a huge jump here, like mortgaging your future by trading a huge prospect. You know, they're giving away some lower level prospects just to get some arms in that bullpen. Because Heath Hembry and Amir Garrett aren't going to carry you through the playoffs. Amir Garrett's really good, but Heath Hembry probably not. So you just need more arms. And their bullpen's terrible. For the most part, that guy Hendricks is horrible. I can't stand to watch him pitch. So that was good. And then Michael Givens. Interesting thing I saw on Michael Givens is that his spin rates didn't like translate well to Coors Field, and the ball like traveled more, and he was just a disaster there. Typical Rockies, you know, not doing that research and just having it fall flat on their face. But I really like him, and I think he'll be good in Cincinnati. Good change of scenery, and we'll see where his velocity's at. You know, being there because he used to be really good with the Orioles. So the Reds make some small moves. Then, let's see here. Biggest deal probably just happened like an hour ago is the A's trade Marte to the A's, or sorry, the Marlins trade Starlin Marte to the A's, for Jesus Luzardo. So first off, Marte gets traded again. I mean, this guy just keeps getting traded and traded. He goes from the Pirates to the D-backs, from the D-backs to the Marlins, and now from the Marlins to the A's. So I don't know what's the deal here. Marlins, I think this is the Marlins' fault partly. I mean, this is a great trade for them, but they didn't want to pay him more than like $10 million a year, which is just stupid. I mean, he's worth more than that, I think. And if so, maybe you overpay for him a little bit because he's a pretty good center fielder in my opinion, and he's above average. I mean, a plus hitter. He's a very decent player. He's not like he's like very good. I don't know how to explain how I feel about Marte. I don't think he's like an elite player, but he's like really solid. And that sounds so stupid when I say it, but whatever. So the A's get Starlin Marte for Luzardo. I guess the one thing I'll say is that so the A's have two really good starters in Bassett and Kerpillion. I don't know who their third starter is going to be. Maybe Cole Irvin, but he's terrible. Montas hasn't been good. And they trade Luzardo. So I'm happy that they finally make like a trade that will like, you know, that aims at like having them trying to win the World Series, if that makes sense. Like in the past, we've seen the A's like just sit put at the deadline and like, you know, always trade for that left-handed reliever like they did this year. You know, they get like Jake Diekman or Yusmeiro Petit or, you know, Joakim Soria, and then just like call it a day and, you know, lose in the second round of the playoffs or the wild card game. Um, I like that they're like actually trying to win this year because they have a pretty solid team. They have a decent bullpen. It really sucks they don't have Hendricks. But they also got unlucky last year because they lost Matt Chapman. But they still have a pretty good bullpen. And then they have two elite starters, in my opinion, in Kerpillion and Bassett. I think Kerpillion's really good. And then they still kind of, I don't know if you acquire a starter. I don't think you do. But, you know, if you want that big three, you know, you need another one. And then their lineup's really good. I mean, you have Canna. I think Tony Kemp is pretty solid. He's got production. Chapman, Olsen. Now you have Marte, Laureano. I guess Seth Brown's now a bench bat. It's also interesting, like, who's going to play shortstop because they have Elvis Andrews. By the way, I also like Jed Lowry. They have Elvis Andrews, but, like, he's not a World Series or playoff shortstop anymore. He's just not that good anymore. He's still a decent player, but he's just not, like, that good. So I guess maybe they move Kemp to shortstop or, like, I don't know. I really don't know what they're gonna do. I know they'll put Marte in right, probably Canna left, and Laureano in center. You can't take Laureano out of center. That's just stupid. Um, They still kind of need a shortstop though, so I guess you could do. I don't think Lowry's just like athletic enough to play second base anymore, due to his injuries. Um, but anyways, in terms of the trade, I like the trade for the A's. I think Luzardo's a little too much though for Starlin Marte. Just because Luzardo could really break out. I mean, he's just got really good stuff. Needs a kind of another secondary pitch besides the slider. And he throws his sinker a lot, but he's got a ton of potential. And I mean, I really like the steal. A lot of people were saying that Luzardo's overrated. I don't know. I mean, he's got great stuff, and he's definitely someone who's great to work with for a rebuilder. Um, Another big deal. So the Mariners trade Kendall Graveman to the Seattle Mariners. Sorry, God. The Seattle Mariners trade Kendall Graveman to the Astros and Rafael Montero, right? For Abraham Toro and Joe Smith. So Joe Smith was a throw-in here. He's not very good. He's had a terrible season. I don't think he's going to do much in the Mariners bullpen. Maybe he'll catch lightning in a bottle and have like 5 good games, but I don't think he's going to help their team. I really like Abraham Toro. I think he's a really good player. I've been watching him since 2020. I know he doesn't have that high of an average, but he's also a really good defender. And he's got some power. He had a home run in his Mariners debut. I think he's a good player, but for me, this doesn't make sense for the Mariners. You haven't made the playoffs in 20 years. And, like, I don't care if, like, yeah, if we make the playoffs, we're not going to make the World Series. Like, obviously they're not. They don't have a good enough team. But you have to, like, just give these fans something to hold on to. And I feel like kind of taking yourself out of the playoff race by removing Graveman and Montero, like, that's a white flag for me. I mean, that's saying you're a seller. And I know they're one game out of the wild card, but I feel like you gotta maybe not trade for anybody at the deadline, but just leave the team be and try to win. Try to make it to the wild card and make the playoffs. You haven't made the playoffs in 20 years, and this is an unexpected season. They were not supposed to be good. I didn't think they were going to be good this year. So I don't know. I was a bit disappointed by this trade. Sure, Graveman was definitely a guy that they just got off of waivers and got really good for them, and you get some return for that. That's great, but like, you know, what about your fan base here? Like, I feel like you gotta try and make the playoffs. And even with me, like, I think Abraham Toro is gonna be really good. He's gonna be like decently good. But there's some, you look at his stats. I mean, he's hitting 193. So to the blind eye, this is to a casual baseball fan, this is like a really bad trade for the Mariners, and it makes no sense. And that's totally respectable if you have that opinion, and I totally understand that. Um, so yeah, that's it. And in terms of that, I think that's it. Oh, one more. Rich Hill goes to the Mets. I'm sorry, this makes absolutely no sense for the Rays. I don't know who you're going to start in game 1. If they don't get Max Scherzer, this is really bad for them because look, the Rays, they're going to make the playoffs, and they have absolutely no starting pitching whatsoever. Yarbrough is just not good enough to be a game 1 starter. I'm sorry. Michael Wacha, this isn't 2013 with the Cardinals. I mean, he's okay, but he's not a playoff pitcher. They don't have any of the top 3 guys that I'm talking about. Like I always say, you have to have 3 elite starters to win the playoffs, to win the World Series and do well in the playoffs. The Rays have 0. Why is there blood on my hands? So the Rays have 0. Rich Hill maybe could have been that 3rd just because he's experienced. He's pitched in the playoffs before. He's old and he's got decent stuff. Maybe he could have been that, that back end guy, that game 3 starter who helps you out. They have 0 starting pitching now. Makes absolutely no sense. And it makes even more sense. It's even less sensical when you trade for Nelson Cruz. I love trading for Nelson Cruz. I think that's a great move by the Rays. But why are you trading away Rich Hill? That makes no sense to me. Good deal for the Mets. They get a back-end depth starter, and they don't have to pitch Jared Eichhoff anymore, even though he just pitched yesterday. The Mets are in need of some starting pitching help, so they get Rich Hill. Good move. But for the Rays, it's like, okay, you acquire Cruz, but then you trade away Rich Hill, who, in my opinion, is probably their best starter. Maybe it's Yarborough, but who cares? They're all just like mediocre. And yeah, they have a great bullpen, but it's like you gotta have some starting pitching. So I liked getting Nelson Cruz, but they better get some starting pitching, or else this playoff run is they're gonna lose in the wild card game um to somebody, because this is ridiculous. So that's it so far for the trade deadline. Thanks for listening. And I'm gonna come out with another video soon about what's went down after everything on Friday. So anyways, see you guys. Thanks for listening.